Ibuy, how you doing?
Hey, lady, doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You have a pretty crazy lodge here, and oh my gosh, what the heck is this?
This is the first great one that I got through my moose grind, actually.
This is your very first moose great one?
Yeah, this was actually the first moose great one with a fur that was spawned live on stream.
First one ever. Hey guys, would you like to have one of these in your lodge? Well, in today's video, we are going to show you how. Today, we're going to be talking about how to herd manage your moose in order to spawn amazing trophies and eventually get one of these babies, a great one moose. And by the way, they all come with a fur now. There are no more commons in the game. Isn't that sweet?
That is pretty cool. I do have one common from my first bit of grinding, but yeah, the fur types are amazing, and it's nice to see them all being able to get one now.
Absolutely. I don't have a fur yet, so I'm starting back on the moose grind, and I can't wait to get one. Just a quick edit to the video, guys. This guy actually showed up on my map literally hours after finishing recording this video, and he is my very first moose great one with a fur. Isn't he insane? Fabled birch, and that is the typical rack, and I did get him through herd management in Medved, and I am so elated. Guys, if you do have questions about herd managing moose, definitely leave them in the comments below, and also let us know what your absolute best moose trophy is of all time. So tell me, what is the very first thing that you recommend that viewers do in order to start their moose grind to try and get a great one moose?
The first thing is obviously, again, it's going out there and finding your drink zones. That's obviously a very important part. For me, when I was setting up my moose, what I did was when I found a zone that had large or, level 3 bulls and level 3s and 4s. So what I did is whenever I went out and I found my zones, as I was finding them, I would find zones that had, 2 bulls and 2 to 3 cows in them, and I would set up on those zones 1 tent, 1 tripod to shoot these zones that had 3s and 4s and higher bulls in them. So what I did is I went out and I set up on my 16 zones, and I would shoot them, and as say like a zone that was less desirable or something, right? Like as it would just get shot down, like I'd get a 2 to spawn there and I realized I kind of didn't like the zone. What I would do is I would continue to shoot the other bull, and then as it got shot down to another 2 there, I would pick up that setup and I would literally just take that tent and tripod, and I would just go and find another zone that had 3s and up in it, and I would set up on that zone, and I just did that until my diamond, and it wasn't like the whole map, right? So like I did it so
until you had good zones that stayed consistently in the 3 and 4 range.
Exactly. And once I had just some beefy zones, eventually like I was able to have shooting tents and collection tents, because I would just pick up off of another zone and then go set up like one zone really good, but maybe it took me a long time to go collect at, right? Because it was you shoot a moose and they run off however far, whatever, but plus you have the shooting distance. So then I would just move a tent over to collection there, and so really it was herd managed, but it wasn't like I didn't completely min-max it out, right? I didn't go and shoot every single zone down. Simplified, you're not shooting down your entire map to get great results. I didn't stack in order to do anything else, right? It was 100% herd management. I just didn't stack in order to shoot my entire map down. I tried to go a faster route with moose, just because the great one, the scores for the great one moose is literally you can get potentially great ones off of a level 3 respawn.
So the moose grind is a little bit different than, say, the whitetail and the red deer grind, wouldn't you say, as far as herd management goes?
Yeah, I believe so, because the scores of the great ones are much lower than normal. So for me, getting respawns off of like level 3 and up seemed to be the best target zone, or best target range, I guess.
Now, do you have a specific map that you would recommend for moose?
I think that it comes down to, Medved's probably like one of the easier ones because they're open and stuff, but really for any type of grind, moose specifically, I think that you should pick a map that you're going to enjoy being on,
Yeah, I've seen personal preference.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of success on LAYTON. I've seen, a ton of success on Medved. Obviously, a lot of people have hunted Medved. I did my first grind on New England. I pulled 3 great ones off of New England and a super rare. It really, I feel like it comes down to preference on the map.
If you're wondering how many drink zones in Medved, I can answer that. I have 135 drink zones in Medved. But if you go over to New England mountains, you have over 200 drink zones. So it is a lot.
Right, yeah, and that's actually funny. I have 134 on Medved.
Okay, so basically you go out, you pick 16 zones, you set up a tent on each of these zones, but you're setting up on herds that are 3s and 4s, correct?
Yes.
And eventually you come back and you get your respawns and you have only 2s, then that's not worth shooting anymore. So then you pull up your tent, your tripod, and you go set up on a different zone, and you just keep doing that until you were shooting nothing but 3s and 4s. And then at what point do you condense the grind? No longer use 16 zones, because you're not using 16 zones at the end, are you?
All right, so whenever I get to where I'm shooting 3s and up for my moose, I literally get to where I'll start weaning out the zones based on how easy it is to collect with just the 110, right? So if I have a zone that I shoot that's, 250, 300 meters away, and one that, is more difficult, I'll still try and get that one shot down, the difficult one shot down, to where I can move that tent to a collection tent, right? So, because you will still get 2s to spawn, even with, a lot of 3s and 4s, you still will get some 2s. So once that just gets shot down, move your tent over to another zone that makes it easier to collect, and you'll just naturally kind of adjust your grind in a way to where you can have shooting and collection tents.
So when is it you decide not to use 16 zones anymore, and what makes you make that decision?
So it really comes down to ease of the grind, right? So if I notice that I'm taking a lot of time to collect at specific zones, that's when I'll try and maybe shoot down a zone and move that tent into a collection point, right? So it really just comes down to how much time do you want to spend collecting. Because moose, they're a hardy animal. You put a shot on them, they run
far. Yep.
Yeah, so you have that extra distance as well. And that's one where I'll really start thinking about moving into, shooting another zone down and getting a collection tent going.
So basically, you are herd managing your moose, but it's more of a simplified herd management. You're not shooting down all of your exterior zones with moose, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, you're going to notice that with moose anyways, there's a ton of your zones are going to be solo cows, and you'll get small bulls and things like that anyway. One little thing that's a little bit different is that if you have a lot of 4s, say you have a lot of 4s in your solo zones, that is one time where I do recommend that you do stack up a bit in your main shooting zones. Get some 5s, some big 4s in those zones. Treat that grind separately though. So once you're stacked up and you know that you have level 4s out there in solos, you're going to want to exit to the main menu. Mm-hmm. You'll come back in at that point after you're done stacking, and then you will go focus your solos only to shoot those 4s down to at least 3s, right? You want to get those big 4s out of there. That'll help you in your grind on your main shooting zones after. But you do have to go back and you need to find those solo zones as well, the respawns from those.
So when they have, for me, in New England mountains, all of my big 4s are in solo zones, which is so annoying.
Yeah.
But basically you're saying, leave the map. In this instance, you would stack bigger moose just for a little bit before you shoot your solo zones. That's what you're saying, right?
Right, and that's just to keep it simple. Now you can absolutely min-max, and you can set up on big zones, and you can shoot down, and you can go through the full process and manage your entire map. For me, my goal was, because moose came out, it was hot topic, right? It was a matter of just trying to get a great one as fast as I could, really.
Yeah, and that's not, if you're gonna herd manage to over 200 moose zones, that's not fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Not fast! Not the fast ticket. So the way you're doing it is the better way, and it's gonna take you way less time, right?
Yeah, and again, the spawn comes down to RNG, so you could spend a lot of time doing it. I've seen it on both sides where people do quick setups, people, fully manage their map out. That great one popping is RNG, and you gotta hope for the best. You need a lot of luck in there, but the quick, simple way is just setting up on your zones, getting shot down. But again, stacking and everything like that will produce more diamonds for you. So if your main goal is also a super rare, I definitely still recommend doing that as well.
Yeah, that's very true. So basically, herd management, guys, helps you to produce more trophies, more diamonds, and the more diamonds that you can spawn, every time you spawn a diamond, that diamond has a chance at having a rare fur coat, and that's what a super rare is. So herd management absolutely will increase your chance of spawning a super rare. It's not going to increase your chances of getting a great one, though. Right? That's RNG.
Right. That is RNG, 100%.
So basically, let's just put it in perspective. You find your zones, you set up on 16 zones. You're setting up only on zones that have nice moose in them, 3s and 4s only. So you're gonna rotate through all of these 16 zones, and eventually some of them are gonna get shot down, at which point you're gonna pull your tent and tripod and you're gonna go set up on a different zone with bigger moose and leave the smaller ones to the side. You don't need to worry about those. As you're doing this, eventually you're gonna figure out which of your zones you really, really like and start moving pickup tents to those zones. But basically all you're doing is rotating these however many zones. It's not going to stay at 16 though. You're best to end up around what, 10 zones?
Yeah, I'd say anywhere from between 8 to 10 zones is where your final grind is probably going to wind up.
Well, I have a question for you. What happens when people run into issues with respawns?
So respawns have been a known issue, I think, by a lot of people right now. And what I did with my moose, so I did get really inconsistent respawns, and I spent so much time running my map over and over. I brought people on. We ran them so many times, and I got to a point where we didn't find anything new. There was no new zones. There was no animals that moved around, and so I continued rotating on my zones. And every now and then you'd see a bull pop up at this zone. I'd shoot it and just kept going, and my respawns came back in. It's almost like they were just delayed. I'm not sure why, but they seem to be slow right now.
They do, and I find that moose are slower than, say, other species. But there are some tricks, aren't there, for trying to help get your respawns in?
Yeah, so two good friends of mine, Zombie Man and Tinder Slayin, actually have been doing this, you know, time change sequence, and it's been helping quite a bit with the respawns, but it doesn't always help. Again, there's something with the respawns right now. However, that time change does help quite a bit.
And that's just putting the clock forward by 1 minute. It is expensive, but for me with the Lions, it helped tremendously. Brought them right in.
Yeah, so what they do is their respawns are not there when they come in. They put the time ahead 1 minute. They'll take a look at the zone from that shooting tent. If the animals are still not there, they exit to the main menu. They'll come back in, take a look at the zone one more time. If they're still not there, they move the time forward 1 minute again. Take a look. If they're not there again, they actually fully exit the game and then come back in. It's really frustrating. It takes some time, but it has been helping with the respawns.
And then they seem to be there after all that.
Yeah, they've been there quite consistently for me after that.
Sometimes when I get to the end of drink time, I will just put it back an hour or 2 hours, and I find that the moose will just stay where they are.
I have noticed that as well.
Yeah, and that's been working great for me. But the 1 minute trick, putting the time forward 1 minute, has been a huge help to me.
Moose, especially for me, are so amazing to hunt because the diamonds are exciting. You get out here and you see some of the variations, which I think moose have probably the most diamond variations of any species so far that I've seen.
Yeah.
But the diamonds, I still never know which of these racks are going to make it. And, you know, when you get a diamond...
I know.
Yeah, you get a diamond that's so crazy. It's exciting. I love it.
Well, congrats on your amazing moose success. You have some pretty insane Great One moose and moose trophies in here. If you do have questions, guys, about the moose grind, definitely leave them in the comments below and let us know what you would like to see as the next Great One. And thank you, iBuy, for sharing your knowledge with us. I do really appreciate it. Definitely drop iBuy some love and drop him a follow on Twitch. He does stream just about every day, and he is absolutely amazing at Great One grinding. You will definitely learn a lot. If you did enjoy today's video or learn anything at all, guys, click that like button, click right here for the herd management playlist, and we will definitely see you guys in the next one.